There have been lots of comments coming in on the videos lately, so today I'll be doing another edition of Q&A based on some of your questions and comments that you've posted. If you'd like to be featured in a future video, please go post in the Discord that I've set up, which I'll link in the description, or post below in the comment section. A few of the comments coming in have been about Relics, a no-budget feature film which I shot a few years ago. So to respond to those questions, I've got a special guest on the channel today, my longtime collaborator and director, actor and co-producer of Relics, Greg Bucker.
Take one.
Thank you.
I think we did that in Relics. Hi there everyone, my name is Greg. I was the writer, director, actor and at times sound recordist on Relics, which has blossomed over the last 5 years from obscurity into something of a cult classic, at least in the in-depth Cine world. And yeah, it makes me very happy to be able to share this film with you and tell you a little bit about the behind the scenes.
So the first question for Greg is, how did you handle the sound recording on Relics as a one-man band? Was it an onboard mic or lapels? Would love to hear some insights about the making of the film.
So you're wondering how we did sound. I'm just trying to remember, it was such a long time ago. How did we do the sound? Ah yes, that's right. We did it just like this. We would get our actors, including myself, to hold the microphone just out of frame. So we perform, we do the scenes, and the whole time the microphone was right there. To hide the microphone, we did things like holding it out of frame. We'd also kind of hide it behind our bodies, arms. We'd sometimes put it inside of a jacket. And in extreme cases where there were multiple actors in a scene, we'd actually have the microphone passed around. I know it sounds crazy, but at the time you must remember that we were in a situation where we couldn't have a boom operator following us around. We weren't very, I guess, aware of lapel microphones. If we were, I think we would have definitely used lapels. I mean, looking back, I think what I remember fondly is just the excitement of making the movie. And I think it's important just to mention that the goal wasn't to make this Oscar-winning film. The goal was just to make a film, warts and all. If you're trying to make a movie and are a little bit nervous about how you're going to record sound, this could actually work if you can't get your hands on lapels, or if you also feel a little bit nervous about having a boom operator following you around. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for everyone, but if you're shooting a film like Relics and you are in public and you don't have many resources, then this is actually a potential option. Well, Relics was just born out of a fierce desire to make a movie. I think that at the time, Gray and I were having a lot of discussions, if I remember correctly, about how strange it was that we had all this technology. We had an editing suite on our laptop. We had this camera, which, relatively speaking, can actually shoot amazing quality footage. And what we'd ask ourselves is, we kept asking ourselves, if Kubrick or if one of the greats was alive today, was in his 20s, living in Tokyo, what would he do? And the answer was obvious. The answer was they'd probably make a movie. And they'd probably do it any way that they could. They'd probably let the sound be bad if it had to be bad. They'd probably use bad actors. But they would do anything in their power to make a movie. And I think that we just decided to embody that kind of spirit, that fierce passion for filmmaking, and decided to put aside all our inclinations and sort of impulses to be perfectionists. The result was this amazing experience. We shot over a number of days. I think it was like 7 or 8 days. And even though the sound is awful, and trust me, Gray and I know that the sound in this movie is bad. Even though the sound's terrible, there are aspects of this film that I will always remember, that I'll cherish forever. And most importantly, it's given Gray and I the confidence to make our next project. And it's given us the ultimate masterclass in filmmaking, Because we made so many mistakes, we've learned now what we'd like to do next time in our next project, in our next feature, which we're actually currently developing at the moment.
Connor asks, did you manage to get your film into any festivals?
We did get into one festival. It was the Durban International Film Festival. And that was in the year 2016. That was the year after we had returned from Tokyo, Gray and I. Yeah, even though Relics only made it into one festival, it was actually an amazing experience for Gray and I. You know, we both flew up. We pretty much spent all our film budget on the plane tickets up. Actually, no, mine was paid for by the film festival because our film actually made it into competition. It was actually competing. You know, it wasn't just premiering or being shown at some side show. It was actually in competition. So that was pretty cool. So we flew up and got to meet a lot of really interesting people. And it was our first real kind of industry experience, festival experience. I walked away feeling inspired. I walked away feeling like the film industry had been demystified.
Finally, on the topic of Relics, we've got a comment that says, what level is this essay? The festival model is a myth. If your film didn't get distribution, it's just a home movie. To address the distribution part first, no, Relics never got distribution, so I guess you could call it a home movie. Having said that, getting our home movie distributed was never a goal or even a consideration of ours. Our goal was just to have fun creating a project which hopefully people would watch, appreciate, and perhaps see some potential in, understanding our lack of resources. Selling the film was never on our radar. Secondly, I wouldn't say that the festival model is a myth. I think festivals are a potential avenue to help get your work seen by a specific industry audience. Some may choose to use it, some not, but it's a nice option for filmmakers to have either way. As Greg mentioned, Relics was able to get into Durban International Film Festival. Through attending this festival with the film, I was able to meet another director who employed me to shoot a feature documentary for her. Another producer then saw a cut of her documentary at a festival and met with me and liked my work enough to put me forward as a DP on my first legitimate independent feature. In the film industry, opportunity creates more opportunities. Maybe the festival model isn't right for everyone, but for me, the festival model has been very successful and won me 2 opportunities to DP feature films. In that regard, Relics did exactly what we intended it to do. Speaking about that documentary I shot, Sam asks, shooting a documentary entirely locked off is amazing. I'd love to hear about how you got around the challenges that are presented when not being able to reframe during a shot. There are definitely many limitations that come with choosing to shoot an observational documentary entirely locked off, the biggest of which is of course framing. In life people are always moving, so it can be difficult to predict blocking, but I found we developed some techniques to counter this by committing to this style of trying to lock off each shot as if it were a photograph. First, a lot of the framing was on the wider side. The wider you frame, the more room there is for the character to move within that frame. Secondly, the more you shoot in this style, the better you're able to anticipate where people land in the frame. So I'd make an educated prediction by framing up and locking off a shot. Sometimes it would work, sometimes not. This brings me to another thing we learned about shooting in this style: patience. Documentary filmmakers need a degree of patience regardless of what style you film in, but in committing to this style, we had to accept that sometimes we would miss shots that we'd otherwise have gotten if we'd shot handheld, for example. When shooting in this way, you also have to edit it in your head without a script as you're filming. You have to make the decision of how long to stay on a wide and when the right moment is to move the tripod into a close-up. The more you practice, the more you start to feel when that right moment is. And the final question today, tell us about your experience in the South African film industry. Sincerely, a South African filmmaker. I'd divide my freelance film industry work into 2 parts, working as a loader or second AC, and working as a DP on documentary or independent film projects. A lot of the work that I do on the larger sets is as a second AC. This means that I work as a camera assistant that assists the focus puller. My job includes managing camera reloads, doing the clapperboard, overseeing the running of camera, changing filters, writing camera reports, and sometimes building the camera, depending on the style of the focus puller that I'm working with. Most of my work as an AC is on international TV commercials. I've worked on a wide range of TVCs, everything from beauty to high-end car commercials. I've also worked on various TV series and films, both local and international, but as I mentioned, most of my network is in commercials. Working on commercials can be tough with very long hours, but it's lots of fun. It also allows me to observe how many established DPs shoot that I've been lucky enough to work for, such as Jeff Cronenworth, Matthias Koenigsweiser, Ross Emery, Nikolai Niemann, and Eckhart Pollock, to name a few. Thanks again for the support and the questions. If you'd like a chance for your question about filmmaking, cinematography, or the channel to be featured, please comment below or on Discord, and I'll try to get around to answering them in an upcoming video. As always, thanks for watching, and goodbye.